Hello everyone and welcome to this short demo of Sage Intacct for Education. My name is Kevin and I am a Sage Intacct specialist at Ion, and I'm joined with one of my colleagues, Liam, who is a Sage Intacct for Education specialist. Today Liam's going to take us through some questions and topics that have arisen during our time implementing finance software in the education sector. So we get straight into it then. Liam, at the moment on screen, I can see a dashboard screen there. It's quite highly visual, lots of colours and green arrows displayed there. Can you talk me through a little bit more about what we're looking at there?
Yeah, no problem. Absolutely, Kevin. What we can see on screen at the moment is a dashboard. This has been created with various key performance indicators on the top. So we've added a few examples in here, things that we know schools or academies have used in the past. We've got the main account bank balance on there at the moment. We've got a budget value this month, some higher facilities. And these will pull through various parts of the Sage Intacct for Education system. Scrolling a bit further down, we've got a key report for a lot of schools and trusts, which will be the revenue and expenditure or budget versus actuals report. So there's a little bit of flavour on there for the user that's looking at this report. And then down the bottom, we've got a breakdown of operating expenses by function. So this is just all the departments in a school, just visually where the value is being spent at the moment. And we've got on the right hand side a couple of sort of tasks almost. We've got the option to approve purchasing transactions and also the option to approve journal entries as well. Now, ultimately, this screen is fully customizable to the user in question, from whether it be a teacher to a budget owner, to someone in finance, or even a CFO of the trust. They might want to see different reports. At the top, there is the option to add, customize, and take things off and add filters to this dashboard to suit what that person would need to see.
Looks great. Thanks, Liam. So I think you mentioned approvals there. So just to move into a bit more of the day-to-day processing of schools, I know a lot of schools at the moment still operate a paper-based kind of purchase ordering system or purchasing system. Can you talk me through how Sage Intacct for Education can help with the purchasing workflow and approval processes?
Yeah, no, you're absolutely spot on. It's from experience, it's been a big challenge for a lot of schools to implement a purchase ordering process. A lot of it is paper based. There isn't necessarily the finance system in place or the technology over the years to make this all digital, given how many teachers or budget owners or finance team members you might have within a school, or an academy, or a trust. It can be quite difficult. So paper was king many years ago. So if we have a look at Sage Intacct and how it works, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to change my view into the teacher login almost. So still the same program, but you can see rather than being a dashboard at the moment, I've now got an application picker. Very few options on here. Again, as a teacher example, that they only want to be able to submit a purchasing document. So going into the purchasing tab here, we've got a list of transactions that are pre-built with the software. Now that workflow currently is set up as purchase requisition to convert to a purchase order, potentially a goods received step within there, and then finally would be the invoice. Now, obviously, John Harrison, my login here at the moment is part of the mathematics department. He's just a teacher. Might not necessarily need all four of those stages, but just for the demonstration, really, we can see all four stops in there. Further to that, if your school or trust needs more steps in there or less steps in there, and you want to keep a bit of paper element to it, you are more than welcome to. The program is fully customizable within there, but by default, you've got your four stages in there. So just as an example, what we're going to do is we're going to go into a purchase order screen just to see a bit of the functionality within the system. So again, as you would normally expect in a finance system, it'll keep a track of all the orders that have already been previously submitted. And if I go into the top right hand corner, I go to add a new purchase order. Again, some pretty standard boxes that you would expect in a normal finance system. Choose a date, choose our supplier. Let's just choose YPO as an example. Scroll a bit further down, we've got the terms and we've got the due dates, and then we get into the real sort of meat of the purchase order or requisition, either or really. As a user within the mathematics team, we want this to make it as sort of foolproof as possible. So we've got John here, who's got a list of the YPO catalogue to pick from, a couple of lined books and stuff like that. So if I chose a lined book, that would choose the item, then chooses the quantity, You can then add the price in. So if I put in, say, £100, choosing the department, again, it's been pre-filtered into the maths department. You saw before on the dashboard that we had other departments listed, but it's been set up so that John's only going to be able to pick from the mathematics department. Choose that. And then we've got the fund, again, really standard funds within there. Just choose guide. General annual grants is a good go-to. Now, I just want to make you aware at this point as well, you can do extra things with this as well. So John Harrison is, just a standard teacher. He's chosen an item, he's chosen the department, and he's chosen a fund. That would be absolutely perfectly fine to then flow through the system and flow through that workflow that we've already mentioned. It could be based on approval. This purchase order is set up that because of these in the maths department, it's going to go to the head of maths for an approval. And that would be via an email notification to both John and also the head of maths. They can approve it tonight, and again, there will be a chain of emails back down that workflow as well to update the communications. But you can, within the system, also add extra dimensions, which really falls into later down the line, coming into the reporting side of things. So an item, a department, a fund, an employee, a customer, a supplier, a location, and a project are all standard out of the box dimensions, which really can just be used for reporting analysis. The key button probably that's in here that schools and academies will really love is this option on the right hand side here, just to show spend insight. Again, real world example. I'm John Harrison. I'm submitting a purchase order for some maths department's goods. I want to be able to see here where this is going to go through the budget process. If I choose to show spend insight, on screen, I can see the budget for this particular item within this month. I can see what's actually being spent, how much this purchase is going to cost me, and how much the funds would then be available. Now I can see straight away it's going to put us over budget by £47.50. Unlikely this purchase order is going to be approved. What I probably need to do as a user is close that out and either change my quantity or look to buy a different item or look for some of these sort of cheaper items. So if I change that to 50, you know how instant it does to update. I re-choose to spend insight, it recalculates. Brilliant. This purchase order is now going to fall within budget with £2.50 remaining. I am now probably okay to submit this through for approval with a high chance that it's going to be converted.
That looks amazing. Liam, that's a great feature there, great process overall as well with the approval in there. Absolutely love the show spend insight. I think that'll be a massive help to a lot of schools to have that visibility directly on the purchase order. Does the approver get to see that as well though, Liam? So when that's approved or before it's approved even, can the approver see the show spend insight option?
Yeah, no, you're absolutely, of course they would. So if we submit that purchase order through as John Harrison, and I then minimize that view, change roles slightly. So I'm now in as a guest. Could be anyone within the organization, but not prominently, this would be the head of that particular department. They would then go into their purchasing area and they would go to the option to approve transactions. And they would see the purchase order that's just come through there and see the item there for £60. And if I view that purchase order as the approver this time, rather than the requisitioner, I can see again the show spend night insight button straight away, £2.50 left over, and it's up to me to then approve or decline this particular purchase order. But I've got all the information at a click of a button.
Amazing. Thank you. Thanks for that, Liam. So just to delve a little bit more then into show spend insight, I can see budget information on there. How can I report on budget? So we had a little look at on the dashboard screen at the beginning there of one report. Can you talk us through a little bit more around reporting on budgets within Sage Intacct for Education, please?
Yeah, no problem. So like I say, if we go back to my dashboard, there is, as you can see on the left-hand side, a section there for reports. So there is a wealth of reports within the program. Again, we set up by default your budget versus actuals reports, your trial balances, your balance sheet reports, your VAT 126 reports that we know schools and academies and trusts would need to submit. If I go back to my dashboard, like you said before, if I go into my dashboard, one of the reports that was on there was the revenue and financial budget versus actuals. If I just make this full screen, make it a little bit clearer for the demonstration, you can see we've got our main sort of account groups on the left-hand side. So what it is that we spent the money on, or what have the revenue in for. Got things in there, sort of grant revenue, we've got wages, expenses and stuff like that. But critically, the budget column is what you're looking for there. So we've got a school budget column, we've got an actual column, and we've got a budget variance report. And that's coming up as a value at the moment. Again, it could be further tailored with a percentage or a graph potentially. Keep it simple and straightforward. We've got the budget, we've got the actual, we've got the budget variance, and then we've got some color schemes here on the right hand side again. And not everyone likes the numbers. Some people prefer to have it a bit more visual on screen when it comes to the boards and the trustees that gather once a quarter within schools and academies. Numbers are great, but visual representation and color schemes is even better. It's make things stand out to further analyze from there.
That's great, thanks. Can I just ask a quick question on that? Can we only have one budget loaded, or can I have multiple budgets in there? So I know schools do they could reforecast and things, and they might want to show that on the report as well. Is that possible?
Yeah, there's no limit to how many budgets you can have loaded into the system for analysis purposes. It might require the report to be tweaked a little bit, so maybe to add a column in to say, okay, this is what the original budget was, and here's a reforecasted budget. Again, you have a variance on both, and you could really get into the detail. To do it, it takes a couple of clicks. You would go into your report, and again, various reports within the software that are available to do this for. But if we go into one of the report options, there's our report there. Budget versus actual. If I click edit, I go into the columns, which is where the information behind the scenes is held. There's my school budget column that we saw before. And in the drop down, I've got a reforecasted 6-month budget in there as well. Doesn't have to be the same column. I could copy the report and have two reports of the same type with a difference of the budget on, or I could add a column in and have it on screen at the same time. Again, it depends on personal user preference within there.
Amazing. That's great. Thanks, Liam. I want to stick on the same kind of topic of reporting now, really, if that's okay. But I want to ask a bit about consolidation and what is involved with consolidation. So how easy it's to run, say if we're consolidating once a month. Could you talk me through what would be involved in those processes?
Absolutely not a problem. Yeah, no, but for the keen viewer amongst you, you'll have noticed before I went into this financial report writer, I've changed from the top from what was Swaledale Academy, and I've gone to what's called the top level. So a little bit about the top level and what the difference is within here. So my top level is my umbrella for my program. It would typically be your trust in the real world. It isn't necessarily a company per se. It can be. It might have some transactions that go through it. But ultimately, the top level is the automatic consolidation within your Sage Intacct education system. Underneath, you might have one school, two schools, 100 schools, however many it needs to be. And by default, out of the box, instantaneously, your top level will consolidate all of your schools. So if I go into my top level now, and just go back to the home page, and if I go into one of my reports, go into financial reports, down towards the bottom, I've got a report in here, a couple of reports, and I've called them Trust Consolidation Report, Actuals and Variance. Again, it is done automatically. There is no consolidation process that needs to be run to run the report. Brilliant. Very similar to the budget versus actual theory that we just had up on screen before. Everything's in the left-hand side, but this time, rather than it being by months, I've expanded it out by the different schools in my trust. So you can see here that Swaledale, Durham-Dale, and Teviotdale Academy, and then we've got an amalgamated value together on the right-hand side in there as well. So that's by default, out of the box, with no configuration. All of your academies or schools that fall under your top level will automatically consolidate. If you wanted to be further smarter to that and say, okay, well, we've got 100 schools, but really 25 fall under 4 different hubs, and you might have little groups of that. You are more than welcome to go into your program and configure your own consolidation groups. But to answer your question at a really high level, there is no consolidation process needs to be ran. It is instantaneous, and you can report on it with a click of a button.
That's great. So I just think, again, from experience, a lot of schools and multi-academy trusts will use Excel to achieve that. They might have different tabs and all sorts of formulas going on within Excel. So to not have to run an actual consolidation process and to just have a report set to do that automatically, I think is going to save a huge amount of time. So thanks very much for that. Now, the final question from me really is, how do I access Sage Intacct for Education? How do I install it onto my computer? So, or if I had 100 computers throughout the trust, how do I go about setting that up, and what's involved with that, Liam?
So there is no installation. The short and the long of it really is there is no installation required for Sage Intacct for Education. I am currently in Google Chrome, which is web browser. The whole Sage Intacct for Education platform is a web-based program. Nothing requires to be installed. So thinking about the last sort of 18 months, 2 years, working from home, working in different locations, going to be the way forward, really. So this Sage Intacct for Education platform is classed as true cloud. It's the best way to describe it. There is lots of other softwares out there over the years that have had cloud in their title or have had cloud-enabled features to get the word cloud in there to get the customers who whereas Sage Intacct for Education is a web-based program, so nothing needs to be installed on the teacher or the head of department or the CFO's machine to use the software. They go to sageintacct.com, they log in with their login name and password, and they're into the software. Yes, there might be a little bit of customization around potential sort of security and firewalls within schools. We know that schools are quite limited with what they can and can't access, but let the website through, and that's pretty much it configured. Obviously, you can configure buttons within the software by user, but really to install it is a bit of a strange question because there is no installation. You go online, you log in your password, and you can do all the tasks that you need to do.
That's great. So again, just from my experience, I'm used to dealing with servers, and I think you mentioned like firewalls and permissions and all those types of things, that it can be really time consuming to set that all up. I'm guessing then with things like updates to the software, that, I mean, how easy is that? What happens if there's an update to Sage Intacct for Education?
Yeah, so you can see it on screen there at the moment. So talking about release notes at the moment. So the Sage Intacct for Education releases normally 4 updates a year, once a quarter, once every 3 months, and they are installed out of office hours, behind the scenes. But before you have the update dropped onto you, the program will start notifying you and highlighting certain areas of the software that it's going to be changing. I think at the moment there is an option under cash management to do 2 options. So you can do things 2 different ways. You normally get a little asterisk next to a new feature that's coming into the software. So you can get used to the new feature, but the old functionality would still also be there. So it's not a log in one day and the whole system's completely changed. You normally get a bit of a 10-minute video, which you can watch and see what's changed, but the program tends to give you a bit of an indicator what is going to change before it actually happens. But nothing
Fantastic.
downloaded, nothing installed. It just does it.
It's going to save a lot of time. I think that's fantastic. So I think that's just about all we've got time for then today, Liam. Thank you again for that. If anybody would like to find out more about Sage Intacct for Education, please give us a call or visit ionhq.co.uk, and we'll be pleased to have a chat with you. Okay, thanks.